Hi, Dana.
Hey, buddy.
Start with DC. What have you talked to him, and what do you think? He looked like a really good fighter there for 3.5 rounds. What do you think his future is?
Yeah, I just left his locker room right now, and obviously you all know how competitive he is. He's, very bummed out, but there's nothing to be bummed out about. What an absolute war for two heavyweights to go in and punch and take punches the way they did and keep coming forward. When Stipe came out and was waiting for Cormier to walk, I mean, all you had to do was look at it. That guy was in phenomenal shape. Mentally, he was ready for this fight, and he got hit with everything but the kitchen sink and stayed in that fight. Then whoever in his corner told him to start going to the body the way it was brilliant, and incredible fight. And I don't know what the future is for Cormier. I told him, don't think about whether you want to fight again, you don't want to fight again, any of that stuff. Just relax, go home, spend some time with your family, and we'll talk about all that shit later.
I know you said it would kill you to see him leave. Do you think in any way, though, when you look at the way this fight went, I mean, what else is there for him to do? And he fought a brilliant fight tonight.
I agree.
Is there...
Yeah, I don't want to see him leave. I still think he's one of the absolute best in the world. I mean, look at tonight. Stipe is one of the best heavyweights ever. He's got the most defenses. Look at the guys he's beat. Look at the things he's done. And look at the way this fight went tonight. So, but I don't disagree with you either.
To go on to Nate Diaz, I mean, it was a phenomenal performance, even if he had fought 10 times since 2016.
You're right.
But he wins a fight against a very good ex-champion.
An unbelievable ex-champion who has looked ridiculous in his last couple of fights. And you have to talk about the layoff. You have to talk about that this kid hasn't fought in 3 years. And he looked a little rough in the first round, looked like he gassed out at the end of the first round too, and then completely changed his game plan and started to fight his fight. And then once he got there, he basically did what he wanted against, one of the top 10 guys in the world after a 3-year layoff. Pretty damn impressive.
When you think that Nate, his 2 fights against Conor were among your biggest pay-per-view ever, and you heard this crowd tonight, it seemed like he was the main event. They were Diaz all night. Do you think that we have another, Rousey, McGregor level star with Nate Diaz, given the way people are reacting to him now?
Yeah, it's pretty tough to deny. Yeah. He's a needle mover now.
Can you put your finger on what it is that moves the needle? Like, what do you think it is that people see in him that they?
Well, I think it's stuff like I did the fighter meeting, and I specifically told him not to swear on ESPN. He looked right at me and said "motherfucker" right after when he was doing his interview on ESPN, and stuff like that. It's just I read this story. I didn't read the story. I read the headline from one of the big papers that had written a story about this. And it said UFC needs an anti-hero. And here he is, Nate Diaz, and it's true. It's just, I said it leading up to this fight. He's the guy that says, fuck you to the man, but he never really says, fuck you to the man. He's always, actually, every time I see him, Nate is cool. But he just has this thing that people like.
And I have two other questions for you. Number one, do you like the Masvidal fight that he mentioned? And number two, I saw he went over to Colby, and you had talked to Colby beforehand. Did you warn Colby not to get into it with Nate?
No, what happened was everybody in that section was fighting with Colby. So security kept coming over to me 50 times saying, we got to get him out of there. And I said, no, everybody needs to start acting like fucking professionals because I don't have another seat in this entire building. Right. Every seat in this place is sold out. So that whole section needs to stop starting fights with Colby and right when I got there too, Masvidal was working his way down the line and Holloway had moved out of his seat so Masvidal could come into his seat. That fucking game that you play in kindergarten was going on over there when I went over there. So I asked those guys, listen to me. We got a big night going on here. We got a big fight. I don't need a fight breaking out over here with you knuckleheads. Stop it.
And then lastly for me, just can you comment on Paulo Costa? I thought that was one of the best fights of the year, and I thought his performance was spectacular.
I agree. Going into this, I thought that was going to be fight of the night, and it was. I mean, there's just no way that that's not fight of the night. If you look at the way that Costa fights and the way that Romero fights, it's just impossible for that in a fight not to be good. And it was everything that I thought it was going to be. They're both beasts, man. What a performance by both guys tonight, especially when they both got clipped in the first round and both guys were hurt right out the gate in the first round, and then to keep going and going 3 rounds and an absolute war like that is impressive. And then did he just leave here? Is that where it was? No, he didn't. But I just talked to him Costa in the hallway here before I walked in here. He's in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? That's how awesome that fight was.
Dana, it seems like the people was kind of little unhappy with the result of that Costa versus Romero. What was your take? What was your score at the end of the fight?
With what?
Well, they were booing Costa at the end because.
Oh, really?
What do you think?
I was over there dealing with my kindergarten section when the interview was going on, so I didn't hear what was going on. But I had it scored 2-1. I gave Costa the first 2 rounds, and I gave Romero the 3rd round. And then some of the fighters that I talked to that were there tonight had Romero winning 2 rounds and Costa winning 1 round. I think that that's one of those fights that either way it went, I don't think you'd be like, oh my God, this is an absolute robbery. That fight was ridiculous. And I actually thought that in the 3rd round, Romero could have finished that fight a couple times, and when he had him hurt, he would back off and go back to the middle of the octagon, which I thought was weird. Yeah.
And last one for me. Seems like you don't make plans after the events. You don't know the future of Nate Diaz. I don't want to go on that thing right now. But are you a little bit worried about Diaz? He smokes too much CBD. I don't know. Something could happen, Maybe it's a little bit of THC, but could happen.
Maybe what?
I mean,
I'm half deaf, and I can't.
On a drug test, CBD has a minimum of a THC, but maybe in the future, maybe he smokes too much of that CBD thing.
Oh, CBD, yeah. Well, hopefully it
almost nothing, but still.
Hopefully it was CBD, yeah. I don't know what was in there, but we're gonna find out real soon.
Okay, that was me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Dana, right here.
And then you asked me, I didn't answer your question about Diaz versus Masvidal. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that fight? I think everybody would want to see that fight. So I don't know. We'll see how that stuff plays out. Go ahead.
Do you think tonight's performance by Stipe coming back, regaining the title, does this solidify him as the best heavyweight ever?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And I mean, if Daniel does decide to retire or do whatever, do you see Francis Ngannou as like the top guy in that division?
Well, I think that right now we'll have to see how this thing plays out. What Daniel Cormier wants to do. Does he want the trilogy fight? Does Stipe want Francis? Does Stipe want to give him the trilogy? I don't know. There's a lot of different ways it could go. We just got to take time. That's why to talk about what will happen in that division right now is impossible. I mean, you don't know what Daniel's going to do. You don't know what Stipe wants.
Do you think this loss for Daniel, though, effectively kills the potential of any John Jones fight again, though?
I have no idea.
And you mentioned Colby there. He got quite a reaction when he walked into the arena. Haven't really heard anything like that. What do you make of that when you just hear, there's a fight going on, a good fight, and everyone's chanting, F you, Colby, Colby sucks?
I just talked with Kevin last week. If you look at, me and Kevin were talking about, I don't remember what we were talking about, but something to do with Colby, and everything this kid did in the last fight trended off the charts. So, he's pretty unpopular, yet popular.
Do you know how Kamaru Usman's doing? Are we potentially going to get that fight, in the next few months, Colby and Usman?
Yeah. It'll happen before the end of the year.
And just one other champion I wanted to ask you about. Henry Cejudo told me yesterday that his next fight would be announced tonight, and that doesn't seem like it happened. Is there anything in the works with Henry, or was he just speaking?
He's saying a lot of crazy shit lately. Put that on the list.
But we did see him next to Faber on the broadcast, and they were sitting next to each other, right? Is there something happening there? Or?
No.
Dana, right in the middle. From the sellout to the gate record to all the digital trends, I think that there's a lot of people that are expecting that this is probably going to be the biggest card so far of the ESPN Plus era. What have you heard from your partners at ESPN about this?
I was sitting next to the president of ESPN all night, Jimmy Pitaro. Tonight killed it. Tonight was a really, really big night for them. Yeah. And this week, not just this night. I mean, the numbers that they were pulling, and it was a really big week, not just night. Yeah. Everybody's happy tonight.
And then a little bit off topic, but there was a news announced recently that MMA is going to be legalized in France starting in January. Have you guys started to move into that market? And is there some idea that you guys want to sort of have the first big MMA event there?
Yeah, well, we've been working on that place for a long time, and we finally got it done. And we thought it was a train or something. We finally got it done. Who knows if we'll be the first ones in there, but we'll go.
Dana, so Costa obviously is pretty banged up after that fight. And he did say even if he weren't so banged up, he had some lingering injuries and would rule himself out as a potential backup for UFC 243.
Yeah, he couldn't. Not only how banged up he is right now, I don't know if he could make the weight again that fast. You know what I mean?
Did you have anybody in mind as a potential substitute fighter in case the worst happens again with Robert Whittaker main eventing in Australia?
Why are we talking about this? This is really negative. I don't even want to talk about this. I don't even want to think about this. Yes, we have all those things in place, but we won't need them.
Okay. Any names you want to drop for that?
Nope. I don't even want to talk about that. You're a mean guy.
No, I'm really a nice guy.
Yeah, you are.
But all right, so one other question. This is a little more positive. So we did hear some rumblings about Darren Till versus Kelvin Gastelum. Is that something that's in the works? Can you confirm that?
I can't even remember. Are we talking about that? No. Yeah, no. I didn't think so.
Dana over here, not to push too much on the idea of backups, but you obviously have the big event in Abu Dhabi. You had Tony Ferguson here in the crowd. Was there any talk about having him ready?
We're not talking about backups, man. No backups. We're not talking about backups tonight. No backups. We won't need a backup.
Secondly, of course, the big pay-per-view coming up at MSG, that kind of gets the fall rolling, I think, to a lot of people. Any idea when we might hear about a main event for that card in November?
Soon. Yeah, we're working on stuff for that one soon. We'll have that. What is it? We'll have that. We'll have that in place in the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Hey, Dana, down here to your right. So now that Nate is back after 3 years and he looked great tonight, how do we get him back again like soon now?
Who knows? I mean, he called out Masvidal tonight, so that's a positive thing. You know, there's no guarantees. Who knows? You know, I don't even think about that. I go on to what's next. You know, going to China next, and straight from there to Abu Dhabi, and then all these other cards that we got to get together. That'll either play out and happen or not. I can't think about that stuff.
Speaking of China, there's that conflict going on with China and Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And Shenzhen, where you guys are going to be in 2 weeks, is kind of very much at the center of that. Any concerns?
Yeah, it's definitely messing with the event and definitely making it even more challenging. But I'm me personally, I'm so excited for that fight, and it's such an important fight, not just for that division, but for both countries. You know, if Weili Zhang can win and become a world champion, it's a huge deal for China. Now, we all know how Brazil is. Brazil loves champions, and Brazil loves having world titles. So if Andrade can win that fight and keep her belt, it's big. So, but yeah, I've already started messing with my flights and connections to get in there already, especially after what happened the other day in Hong Kong.
But the card is still on, of course, right?
Oh, yeah. We're doing the card no matter what. Okay. That's happening no matter what happens.
But there are some logistical...
Even if it's just me sitting over there watching the fight.
But there are some logistical issues that you guys are having travel-wise, like flying in and stuff?
Oh, say that again?
There are some logistical issues, though, possibly?
No, there haven't been. Okay. But I'm making sure that I get there no matter what happens. If something like what happened in the Hong Kong airport happens again, I'm finding out alternate routes for me to get there, no matter what. I'm going to be there no matter what.
Gotcha. On the undercard tonight was Bermudez and Kenny, and that fight was going to be at bantamweight, and it got moved up to a catchweight at 140. What was the story there? Because I know you guys aren't really a huge fan of that happening all that often.
So ask me that again. What happened?
The Bermudez-Kenny fight was going to be at bantamweight, and it got moved up to a catchweight at 140.
Well, I think what happened was I think that he took that fight on short notice, like 5 days notice. That's why that happened.
Is that fight? Oh.
I think so. I don't know. I couldn't honestly tell you the answer to that right now.
And have you spoken to Conor McGregor at all since that video?
No, I was just saying to Brett. I haven't looked at my phone yet, and he said, "Well, if you had to bet whether there's text from Conor on your phone, what would you think?" And I said, "I bet there is." So,
is Conor Nate 3?
I have no idea. I'm just saying I haven't looked at my phone, so I don't know if Conor texted me or didn't text me.
Thanks, Dana.
Yep.
Hi, Dana. Going back to Costa. Costa asked for a title shot. Do you think he deserves a title shot? It's his next step.
You know, when I talk to you guys after a fight, usually like an RDA fight, I say, man, when you beat RDA, you know, that's a big deal. And he's one of the toughest guys out there. He's beat some of the best in the world. When you beat Romero, and especially the way he beat him tonight in a fight like tonight, yeah, I wouldn't say that he doesn't deserve a title shot.
Hey, Dana.
Yeah.
Gil Majuri, MMA Mania. Congrats on the big night.
Thank you.
So Jorge Masvidal was back here, and he told us there were some delicious offers on the table, knowing that he's not getting that title shot right now, and with Conor's uncertainty and Nate's call out. Is this something you guys discussed before, that Jorge could fight that winner?
No. The winner of who? This tonight?
Nate.
No,
Yeah.
no, that was never discussed.
Was there
I mean,
something else
if you
discussed?
had to, if tonight, you asked me before the fight, do you think he'll call out Masvidal? That would have been the last guy on earth I thought he would have called out. But he did, and it's kind of fun. I don't think anybody would disagree that they wouldn't want to see that fight. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, I know that Masvidal believes that he should get the next shot after, you know, Usman and Colby fight. So we'll see. You know, if he wanted to take that fight, that would be fun, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. Cool? That's it? Thank you guys so much. Oh, go ahead. What's up, Karen? Give her a mic, somebody.
There was a rumor going around that Nate actually hadn't signed the contract until kind of 11th hour. Is that true? The fight contract?
No.
No.
Nate's been signed for.
Okay.
We haven't had any problems with Nate. Nate, other than smoking and motherfucker on ESPN, and you know, other than you know, not showing up to the stare downs that day or media day that day. Nate's been good.
I'm glad to hear that, because that was the rumor that
there
was
hasn't
going around.
been any. Like I said, once these guys, whether it's him or his brother, they make up their minds that they want to fight. They're in. They show up and they fight. There are little hiccups and little things that happen along the way, and you know, I used to flip out about that stuff, but we just sort of roll with it, and I pick and choose my battles with these guys. And you know, anytime I deal with either one of the Diaz brothers, they're nice.
Well, how much do you deal with Nick now?
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of people have kind of written him off, unfortunately.
Written him off as far as what?
As Nick, if we'll ever see him come back.
Oh, Nick?
Nick, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I was saying Nick.
Yeah.
Anytime I deal with the guys, they're not bad guys.
Of course, yeah.
They're good guys.
Yeah. Last question from me anyway, and I know you got to go. I was talking to Sadiq Youssef about Africa. Obviously, we know we've got African champions in the UFC right now. There are emerging markets like France. Is there any idea that we could ever have a UFC Africa?
Yeah, and actually, what's crazy, and most people might not know this, but the sport has been big in Africa for a while. I mean, that's why these guys are popping up, because we had a television deal in Africa for a while, and then you know, they have another organization over there,
EFC.
EFC, yeah. That's what it is. EFC. That's pretty popular and does well, and you know, between those two things, it helped build a market there, and it's real. So the answer is yes. The long-winded answer to your question is yes.
But it would maybe be in a place like Morocco.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there is a market there. It is real. And yes, we can and probably will do a fight there.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Have a safe trip home.